What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast and brought to you by odds.com. It's everybody's favorite show of the week, the post weigh-in recap. Here we go, UFC 251. Just watched the weigh-ins, just watched the face-offs, and as always, I've got the lowdown for you. We are going to start at the beginning of the card. We've got Martin Day taking on Davey Grant. Now, Martin Day had absolutely no issues with his weigh-in. I really don't have anything one way or the other to say. I kind of expected to see him come in a little bit more re-energized. I thought he was going to be a little bulkier. It looked, based on his Instagram, that he had worked really hard, physically speaking, added a lot of muscle. It didn't look so much that way when he was actually on the scales, though. So I'm not sure if that's just a trick of me expecting more than I'm seeing. You don't necessarily add size when you add muscle, so that could be, tensile strength, that kind of thing. He could definitely still have that advantage, but I didn't see it. Davey Grant, he looked really good. He looked strong. He had a lot of energy, and then when they faced off, they got really into each other's faces. They are ready to go. This is one that I really leaned to Martin Day, but it's because of that price tag with him being gone so long that I really couldn't pull the trigger, and now I'm very tempted to look at the dog on this side of things. Davey Grant, plus 145, plus 150. I know my boy MMA Kelton took a stab with Davey Grant, and at first I'll be honest, we're allowed to disagree on picks and things like that, but I just didn't see it. Now seeing the size advantage, seeing how they looked when they weighed in, not so crazy anymore. The over and under on this one was set at 2.5. The under is plus 180. I mean, these guys got in each other's faces like they're ready to go. I guess maybe I would take a look at the under 2.5 if that was something that you felt like you wanted some additional action on. I'm going to leave it as a pass myself, though, because I'm kind of conflicted. My brain tells me that Davey Grant is going to be the one who takes this thing. However, I hate that line, and the weigh-ins didn't provide me enough of a reason to go with Davey Grant, but he definitely looks like he has the ability to get in there and make this thing messy if he wants to. Carol Rosa taking on Vanessa Mello. Rosa appeared to be very, very nervous. She was extremely relieved when she made weight, and then her opponent Mello gets on the scale. She was the last to weigh in, and she missed by a full 5 pounds. I mean, just a ridiculous weight miss for anybody at this point. And unless I'm mistaken, she's missed weight in her last one or two fights. She's missed weight in a row. So really bad look for Mello. And realistically, I think she's on her way out the door anyway. The face-off was just very low energy, not a big deal. This is another one where I side with the favorite, but at the same time, I don't really feel like putting a whole lot of money on her. Especially with Mello coming in, missing that kind of a weight. You got to wonder if she's even motivated to be here at this point. She may just be a lamb to slaughter. Julian Paiva was a little slow getting on the scales. He didn't even bother to use the hoop, and he missed by 3 pounds. He weighed in at 129. It was one of those things where he knew he was going to miss weight. He didn't even bother trying to strip down and make it look like he was making that effort. He was not going to make it, but he didn't look bad. That's the thing. He did not look like he was sucked out. He didn't look like he struggled too hard to make it. His face wasn't gaunt. He was still able to, flex. He was doing the apologetic hand praying gesture as soon as he got on the scale because he knew what was coming, but I don't get the sense that he was really that far off here. Usually when fighters miss weight, that's one of the spots we look at to go, hey, hammer their opponent. Their opponent's live here. They're going to be weak. They're going to be drained. I didn't get that feel from Paiva. I just almost feel like he's too big for the division. He's a growing young fighter, and this might be the last one that he has here because it seems like he's just not going to be able to get down to that weight potentially anymore, and maybe he gave up a little bit early. Now, Master Z, Algas, Zumagulov on the flip side of this thing, he looked good. He looked really thick. I mean, big, strong in the arms, biceps are heavy, and they got in each other's faces. I mean, Master Z got right up on Paiva. They were ready to go. They looked like they're ready to throw down on this weigh-in. And because of that, I'm going to go ahead and add a pick here. This is one that I took a look at a little earlier in the week on the totals, or I apologize, last week when we did UFC 251. I took a look at this total, and I was a little interested in it, but now I think I'm going to go ahead and take that shot. The under 2.5 rounds is sitting at about plus 230, plus 240, somewhere in that ballpark, and I think I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. So Paiva has been well on his way to a finish in his last 2 of his 3 fights, and I know he was facing an opponent in his last fight that really wasn't UFC caliber, but in this kind of a situation, he's fighting a guy who's relatively small for the weight class, and he's got that size advantage. He's much, much too big for this weight class, and coming in 3 pounds over, especially if it's not a drained, watered down, weakened 3 pounds, if he's just bigger and stronger for having not had to cut that weight down, he's going to hit harder. He's going to be more effective. And on the same side of this thing, I think that Algas, he's got that overhand. He's going to be able to hit Paiva, and Paiva doesn't move his head. We talked about that in our initial breakdown, that this kid is extremely hittable. He's young. He can make mistakes. And I think that under 2.5 at plus 230 is going to be something I want to go ahead and take a stab at, just because if Paiva is somewhat compromised from the weight cut, I don't know that he is, but if he is, Algas might be able to knock him out. And if he's not compromised, if he's in fact bigger, faster, stronger because he didn't have to cut those extra 3 pounds, then Algas is in trouble, and he's going to have a hard time dealing with the reach of Paiva, and Paiva's got some heavy hands himself. That volume may end up overwhelming him, so I think that's a play that I'm going to go ahead and take a shot at. Follow me on Twitter at DieHardMMAPod. I'll be tweeting out my official picks when I make them, and I think that's one that you can hear right here on the Odds HQ video that I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at. The next fight, one that I'm extremely interested in, Marcin Tybura taking on Maxim Grishin. Now, this is one that we already jumped on Marcin Tybura. I went ahead and played him at a pick'em price simply because of the advantages he's going to have. Maxim Grishin coming in late notice, 205, or moving up to heavyweight, not UFC caliber, struggles with the takedowns. I think it's a perfect spot for Marcin Tybura to get a nice little win in. Marcin looked totally solid for a heavyweight. I mean, by heavyweight standards, you know, they always carry a little extra body fat, that kind of thing. He looked good. He looked good. He was 252 pounds weighing in, so much bigger man here. Maxim Grishin weighed in at 223, and he was carrying a little bit of, you know, mass around the gut. And he's a guy that cuts down to 205 and is always slim cut, muscled, ripped up. So for him to have that extra weight on him and be fighting a good 20 pounds heavier on short notice, I don't know that that's going to help him. I mean, we don't know if his cardio is in check. He's going to be carrying more weight than he's used to, which that does wear you out. If you're going to have like a striking heavy game plan, bouncing around, moving the footwork, if you're carrying 20 extra pounds than you're used to on fight night, that can tire you out. The other thing is, we've seen him have an issue with the takedown. Marcin Tybura is a Brazilian He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he is a solid grappler. I think he's going to get on top of Maxim Grishin, and I think he's going to be able to just ride him out. When they faced off, that size discrepancy became apparent. I mean, Maxim Grishin is a tall dude. He's a big 205er. So height-wise, it wasn't that big of a difference, but Tybura is just so much thicker. I mean, when you look at the chest, the shoulders, he's a thick boy. He's a big dude. So I am loving that Tybura bet. If you're not on Tybura already, I would suggest that be the side that you look at if you need some action on this fight. I have already put the bet down. I'm on Marcin Tybura myself, and I really love that spot at this point. Leonardo Santos taking on Roman Bogatov. Neither guy had any issues as far as the weigh-ins were concerned. Santos looked good, consummate professional. Bogatov, he seemed in very good spirits, very excited. The weird thing about this one was the weigh-in. Bogatov did a little knee tap, or came in at the very end to try and see if he could get some sort of reaction out of Santos. It looked like he was going to tap his knee or even tap his nuts, and Santos didn't even flinch. I mean, Santos is a stone-cold killer. This guy kind of crouched and came down with an arm to like snag his knee to get a bit of a reaction. Santos just stared him down. I love this guy. He's got ice in his veins. I lean to Santos here, but I'm on the under 2.5 at a plus line in this spot because Bogatov is going to dive directly in Santos's world. He's just a grappler. That's all this guy does. He sells out for the takedown, chain wrestles. So I think that's going to open up the opportunity for Santos to use his incredibly high Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills and get a choke at some point. And if Santos is old, if somehow 40 years old has done him dirty and he's injured or wounded coming into this thing, there's always the chance that Bogatov can get the finish on the other side of this thing, but I think Santos is probably going to get this one done. Makwan Murakami taking on Danny Henry. This is another one that has me a little bit concerned. So I have been all over Makwan Murakami from a breakdown perspective since this fight got announced. I think that he should win this fight, but when he came onto the scales, he seemed very, very low energy. I think he had a bad weight cut. And this is a guy who is a 2-to-1 favorite. Now, I didn't lay the wood. I didn't put him in a parlay. I was waiting for exactly this kind of a situation to see what I wanted to do. I did end up playing the under 2.5 on this one. And I would suggest looking that way rather than laying the money on Makwan Amirkhani. He's a guy who's always got gas tank issues. Even when he's on point, even when he's had a good weigh-in, he tends to gas out towards the second and third rounds because of all the grappling that he does. And on this one, he didn't even flex. He gets up on the scales. He took his necklace off to try to make sure that he made weight. He needed that extra pound allowance. And as soon as they called his weight on the scales, he immediately stepped off and walked away. No flex, no showboating. And this is a guy that's normally extremely confident, loves his own aura type of guy, and he just got off that thing and got away as soon as possible. I really think Makwan had a bad weight cut. Danny Henry, however, he looked cut up. He looked strong. He looked physically ready to go. He was in good moods, flexing, had abs, no problems. And then when they faced off, Henry is bigger than Makwan Amirkhani. That was something that I was not expecting. I thought these guys were going to stand toe-to-toe. I thought they were going to be the same size, physically speaking. You know, you always look at the numbers, and even if it says 5'9", 5'9", when they get face-to-face, there's size discrepancies. You never know just how perfect those numbers are going to be. But I thought they were, going to be a 1-to-1. I thought they were going to be exactly the same height. Henry is a decent chunk bigger than Makwan Amirkhani. And at this point, I am extremely excited about my under 2.5, because if you haven't bet this one already, I'd be very tempted to take the Henry side. I'm going to stick with my under 2.5. I got that at a plus line. Or I'm sorry, I got that at a pick 'em minus 110 type of bet for the under 2.5. And honestly, I love it at this point, because if Henry is going to be the bigger, stronger, more physical man, when Makwan goes balls to the wall and blows his load in the first round and gasses out, he's going to have a hard time with Henry after that point. And especially if this turns into a ground scrambly type of fight, which I expect it to, I think Makwan Amirkhani, I've always said I think he's going to get it done in the first round by submission. But if he can't submit Henry in the first round, he's going to have his hands full at that point trying to stay alive. So I'm loving the under 2.5 at this spot right now. And I honestly would not hate a shot at Danny Henry. I'm not going to double up on it myself at this point, but I'm extremely tempted to based on that weigh-in result. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos versus Muslim Salikov. This is one where both guys, consummate professionals, business as usual. They both got on the scales. They both made weight. They both looked good. Salikov, he actually looked a little bit thicker to me. I don't know if maybe that was just he had a good flex or a good angle or something like that, but he looked like he put on a little bit of muscle. Now, Zaleski obviously is a decent bit bigger than Muslim is height-wise, but they had a very respectful face-off. That's something that we knew was going to come. My opinion hasn't really changed on this fight. I'm kind of feeling like at some point Salikov lands that big bomb and gets this thing done by knockout. However, I don't like the line. It's a close fight. His opponent is bigger and has some advantages, the movement, the takedowns. So I'm just going to go ahead and stay off this one. This will be a fireball and popcorn fight for me. I still lean towards Salikov, but I'm not going to be putting any action on it. Volkanovski versus Giri. This is another really, really exciting fight. Now, as most of you know, I'm already on Volkan Ozdemir. I locked it up very, very early looking into this one. He was just big and thick. Again, business as usual. Volkan Ozdemir knows what he's doing, made the 205 limit, looked really good. Dude is thick as hell. And then Giri comes on. He also knows what he's doing at this stage. Well-muscled, no weight cut issues, and the face-off was fantastic. Both men are extremely confident. Both of them think they're going to knock their opponent's head off and walk away with this one easily. I'm really excited for this fight. Giri's a bit bigger than Volkan. Volkan's a bit thicker than Giri is. So this one's going to be extremely interesting to see how it plays out. And the chips are already down. I'm on Volkan. Now I just got to see if No Time can get it done for me. But I understand why people are betting Giri. He looks good. He looked ready to go. Ribas versus PVZ. We get to the pay-per-view portion of the evening. Ribas looked extremely good up the extra 10 pounds. No weight cut issues. Very happy, seemed bubbly, ready to go. Paige Van Zandt, however, looked extremely uncomfortable. As soon as she made weight, she made an extremely fast exit. She didn't flex or show to the camera, which I kind of thought she would. She's been nothing but fun and ready to go throughout this whole thing. So for her to just escape as quickly as possible after the weigh-ins took place made me kind of scratch my head a little bit. She didn't struggle with the weight cut or anything like that, but she also didn't look like she wanted to play to the crowd. Maybe that's because she knows she's leaving the UFC and she's not trying to give them any more of a show than they need, but she immediately bounced. And then when they faced off, Ribas is so much bigger than Paige. It's one of those things where the fighter at the lower weight class coming up has the size advantage still 10 pounds up. I mean, I know that Paige Van Zandt had a little bit of trouble when she was cutting down, and at this weight class, she seems very undersized. I know she's put on some muscle, but it didn't really seem like it made that big of a difference in the weigh-offs. Physically speaking, Ribas is much bigger. Since my initial breakdown, I thought there was going to be some value on Paige. I said I didn't hate the shot at Paige just because there's no way that Ribas is going to win this thing 90% of the time. And I think I've changed my tune there, folks. I feel like Ribas is probably going to get the submission here. I think she's bigger than Paige. She's going to piece her up on the feet. When Paige finally does end up succumbing to that and gets hurt, it goes to the mat. She may even just wave the white flag. You know what I mean? She may give up her neck at some point, which Paige is not a quitter. She doesn't tap to chokes. She's actually gone out unconscious when she fought Rose because she refused to give up. So I'm not questioning her heart or anything like that, but I could see her absolutely just get pieced apart by Ribas to the point where she had no other option but to get out of there that way. And Ribas by submission doesn't seem like a bad prop to me in this particular circumstance. Jessica Andrade, Rose Namajunas, both women looked totally fine. Jessica Andrade, she made weight. She kind of gave a half-assed flex. I'm not sure if I should look too much into that. Rose, she's really hard to read. She's a very special case. We know she's got anxiety issues and stuff like that. It's really hard to get any type of read on her. I'm looking for physical cues, people looking uncomfortable, people looking a little dainty when they're getting on and off the scale. And Rose she's always so calm. It really messes with me for this kind of a read because I can't get anything off of her. Now, the stare down was intense. Both these women look ready to go. I mean, both of them are coming off losses. This is the boogie woman for Rose, and Jessica Andrade just lost her belt. I mean, Andrade did not bring her a rose this time. There was no friendship or anything. They did shake hands. They were cordial, but they both look absolutely intense and locked in for this fight. Another one that I'm really glad I'm staying off of. I still lean towards Rose. I still think Rose probably gets it done. She's the more talented, more well-rounded fighter. But I don't want to count Andrade out, especially after what happened the last time. Peter Yan taking on Jose Aldo. Yan looked ready to go, folks. This is one where I have not bet Yan because, again, the line just seems off. But Yan looked so ready to go. He flexed the second he got on the scales. As soon as he got up there, he was immediately showing off the guns and ready to rock. Jose Aldo looked extremely sucked out, as always, trying to get down to this weight class. He ended up needing the towel, and he actually had to take off his COVID-19 face mask to make sure that he could make the weight. So very difficult weight cut for Jose Aldo. We know at 135 it is, and he had to make the 135 on the dot. He had to make championship weight for this one. So that took a little bit more for him to get it done. He bounced back just fine last time, though. That has to be said. Jose Aldo sucked out against Marlon Moraes, and then he blew back up for fight time, and he fought just fine. So we need to keep that in mind. But the biggest thing to me was everyone's talking about how large Jose Aldo is going to be, how big he looked against Marlon Moraes. Well, when they faced off, folks, they were about the same size. In fact, Yan was a little bit taller than Jose Aldo is, but he was wearing shoes. Keep that in mind. The shoes make a difference. He was a little bit taller, so that means they're gonna be about the same size. And I expected Jose Aldo to be a decent chunk larger than Yan, just like he was against Marlon Moraes, but I don't think that massive size advantage is going to be there, folks. I still think that Yan KOs Jose Aldo late when his gas tank can't keep up. I'm expecting rounds 3, 4, and 5, somewhere in that ballpark. But this is going to be a battle, and I've counted Jose Aldo out before, and he's come back to bite me. So I'm not going to get in the way of that one. I still very much lean to Peter Yan by knockout. If you can get a good line on that prop, that's the one that I would take, but I'm only seeing it out there at like plus 110, plus 120, and I just don't think that's enough. I mean, I know getting a minus 220 favorite down to plus 110 or plus 120, that sounds great. That seems really solid, so if that's the route you want to go for it, but I was hoping to get more in the plus 150, plus 160 range. So I don't know. I might end up passing on that one. I'll probably end up putting a little bet on that myself just for fun, but it's not going to be an official pick at this point because I don't think there's enough value on that line. Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. Max looked the same as ever, and Volkanovski seemed business as usual, but dude's got a giant head. I've always got to talk about that. Volkanovski's head is massive. This guy is never going to get knocked out in the UFC because He's got a heavyweight head planted on a 145er's body. It's unreal how big that thing is. But Max looked vengeful, and I say that with a purpose. When they went into the weigh-ins, usually he's the Hawaiian chill dude, you know what I mean? He's the guy that wants to be buddy-buddy. He's the guy that makes friends, shakes hands, that kind of thing. He walked up on Alexander Volkanovski. Max Holloway is ready to go, folks. I know I'm in the minority here saying that I think Max is going to win the rematch and get his belt back, but I really think we see a trilogy. I've already bet Max Holloway. I like that side. I think this is a pick'em fight. I am not downplaying the skills of Alexander Volkanovski. He absolutely is capable of winning this fight again. But I think Max Holloway learned from the first fight, and I think he'll make some adjustments that'll make this fight much, much closer. And I like flipping that coin with the plus money. A lot of people out there seeing value on Volkanovski at minus 200, and I just don't. I think that the value is very clearly on Max Holloway, and this line should be a little tighter, just like the first one was. I think this break for Max Holloway probably did him wonders. It was something he absolutely needed, and I know there's that angle out there that he hasn't been training for this fight. Trust me, folks, he has. Kamaru Usman taking on Jorge Masvidal. For all you in the comments, I apologize. Sometimes when I'm reading my notes, the brain doesn't quite register things, and I called him George Masvidal in my last breakdown, and I got roasted on YouTube. So calm down. Everybody just chill out. Jorge Masvidal taking on Kamaru Usman for the title. Our main event, it is happening. Both guys made weight. Both guys made championship weight. I couldn't be more excited. This thing is on and ready to go. The only way I could be more excited is if my boy Gilbert Burns was actually the one taking this shot here, because I'm a huge fan of that guy. So Kamaru Usman, I mean, what can we say? Dude's a physical specimen. He's got the genes we all wish we could pay for. He looks phenomenal on the scales, as always, and he had a bit of a slow flex, which normally you might think, he's not moving too well, but in my opinion, I think this was very deliberate. He looked extremely confident, raised his arms extremely slowly, and got up here to do the flex that I think that was purposeful. Jorge Masvidal, he needed the towel. We know he's taking this fight on short notice. We know he had a tough weight cut trying to get down to 170 this quickly in this fast of a turnaround, and he looked extremely relieved to have made the weight. Can't read a whole lot into that. This guy's a natural 155er who has since moved up to 170, so I don't know that it's going to be that big of an issue for him, but that rough weight cut, getting down that fast in that amount of time, we got to wonder what that looks like in the later rounds, right? The face-off was intense. This was by far the show of the day. Dana White looked extremely nervous. He got between them immediately. Jorge Masvidal was doing his behind the hands lean. We didn't want another three-piece and a soda situation. Dana was obviously wise to that situation. And Usman looked extremely confident walking up on him. I know that's kind of Usman's bag. That's always what he does. I kind of hate him a little bit for it, but in this situation, since I'm backing him, I'm all good with it. So Usman was a decent bit bigger than Jorge, which we knew was going to be the case, right? We absolutely knew. Usman is a massive 170-pounder. Don't know how he makes that cut every time. He's a big, big dude. And Masvidal used to fight at 155, so there's gonna be a size discrepancy there. So my opinion has not changed whatsoever. I mean, the odds are stacked against Masvidal. Every single casual bettor on the planet is running to the window to lay money down on Street Jesus because he's gonna baptize Kamaru Usman, and unless he gets that first round knockout, this is Usman all day. I hope that line keeps dropping because I'm already on Usman. And if the line continues to plummet, I'm going to be on him for a little extra. So I'm very confident in Kamaru Usman here. This is a spot exactly like Conor McGregor versus Khabib. The world, everyone knew that Conor was just going to be the guy to come in here and knock Khabib's head off. And guess what? That wrestling ability cannot be denied. And Khabib did exactly what he was supposed to do against Conor. I laid the minus 200 on Khabib. That was really the betting spot of all MMA history, to be able to just lay the wood on a favorite that should have been, 4 or 5 to 1, but was only 2 to 1. We've got the same spot here, folks. Don't get it twisted. I know everybody wants to be on Masvidal. I'm not selling him short. He's got the KO ability. He's got the KO power. But this is Kamaru's fight to lose. If he decides to stand and strike and play around with Masvidal, he could get clipped. He absolutely could get clipped and give this thing up. But if he plays it smart, If he crowds him, if he puts him up against the cage, if he takes him down, if he mat returns him when he tries to get back up, if he gets a little bit of ground and pound on him and drains that gas tank, if he takes some body shots out of him and plays it smart, moves his head, stays on the outside, unless he's closing the distance. I mean, Masvidal's got to clip him on the way in for a takedown. Usman is not going to give up a flying knee from across the cage to start the fight, folks. I hate to say it, but we're not going to see Masvidal Askren 2. So I'm very extremely confident on Usman here. That is definitely my play of the evening. And as long as that line continues shortening up, I'm definitely going to be taking a shot on it. So good luck on all your action this weekend, folks. That's it. That's my breakdown. I will be tweeting out all my official plays tomorrow before the fights kick off. If I do end up locking in those plays, I'll be tweeting them out this evening as soon as I make those bets. I'm definitely going to be playing that under 2.5, and I might have one more for you. So tune in at Die Hard MMA Pod. Give me a follow over on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to Odds HQ. We're giving you a ton of MMA content, and we will be all over this thing. Make sure you check out my boys Nick and Mo Scream. They'll be doing a live stream a little bit later today discussing the weigh-ins as well, and I think they're going live tomorrow night for a fight tag-along companion type of stream. So go check them out. Have a little bit of fun. Love you guys. Good luck. Let's roll.